Hello and welcome back to the Real Music Talks. Today's guest is Emma, a singer-songwriter living in Swindon. How you doing, Emma?
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, not too bad yourself. All good?
Yeah. Keeping well.
Awesome, awesome. So let's get right into it. So for people that are listening that don't know you, how would you describe yourself and your involvement in the music industry?
Well, hi, I'm Emma Doupé, and yeah, I'm new to Swindon, but I moved to the UK about 8 years ago because I'm a musician. I went to school for music, classical performance, and yeah, after I graduated, there's not much happening in rural America. I come from Idaho, and it was either move to a big city there in the States or kind of do my own thing, try to see what I can make of myself somewhere else. And thankfully, I've got family here in the UK. I'm a citizen as well. And so it was an easy move for me. And actually, when I'd come here in the past as a tourist, what I noticed about the music scene in the UK as a whole is that it's really vibrant. I started in Oxfordshire when I moved here, and I what I noticed about that is I would walk down the streets and there was posters for, classical music gigs as well as, independent stuff, as well as kind of big names coming through, which in Idaho, big names don't come through. They just skip on over to the next state. So I was like, okay, this is where it's going to happen. And yeah, Oxfordshire wasn't necessarily like the best place for me. There is a lot of music happening, but surprisingly enough, and I think you guys might be quite proud to hear this, I found that the Swindon music scene has been incredible. There's so much happening here. And, you know, I'm a singer. I'm a singer. I sing. I am a vocalist. That is my first and foremost instrument in this world. And I sing because it's the best way for me to communicate. Uh, I get a bit mixed up in my words sometimes. I can get anxious. I can be misinterpreted. And in fact, living in the UK, people hear this accent and they immediately kind of go into like a filter of what they think they're hearing from me. So, uh, but in music, that doesn't happen. What people experience is, the things I'm feeling when I do that. And I think that singing for me is the easiest. I also play keys, which is nice. I've done some original stuff, but I've been like terrified to do songwriting stuff myself. So I'd go and sing as a soloist. I do some covers. I play an auto harp as well, which is quite a unique instrument. Everyone sees it and they're like, oh, that's fun. So I can get away with being really average at it. Again, it's anything I can sing to. Um, and yeah, through that, it's kind of led me to some other interesting projects. I've got a cat that's really excited here. Sorry. He's going to try to jump on this window. Um, yeah, some exciting projects. I mean, I was just in a covers band in Oxfordshire that was great, but it kind of just dissolved because I've moved to Swindon and things are picking up here. Um, yeah, I just joined and had our first gig with the Crystal Wolf Project, which is a local, we're a three-piece now, and it is so exciting. I'm still kind of processing post gig. But it was great. And it's so just trying to find more ways to just do what I do best. I love to sing. I really love doing digital stuff now, even though I'm mostly an analog instrumentalist. Um, like my favorite thing to do is sit at I have a baby grand piano. She is not in the best of shape, but she does me well. And to sit there, like that's where music starts for me. And if I can kind of translate that out into the world, let it seep into things, I will.
Loads of stuff to unpack there. I think it'd be really good to hear, like when did you first get into music? At what point did you say like, I love singing, this is what I want to do?
So, funnily enough, I didn't really think that I was going to be a singer when I was really young. didn't I that I don't come from a musical family at all. I always joke around with people, my family can collectively play a CD. And that's kind of also a sign to where they are with music and technology as well. So everything I did musically was just kind of what I picked up. I fell in love with Madonna and Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson and En Vogue and Boys to Men because I was watching MTV in the 90s. And like that whole concept, like I used to watch music videos and I would dance along to them and I was like, this is so cool. And it wasn't until I was in like middle school, we had like choir class that one of the teachers said that we all, for the end of the term, we had to do a presentation. So you could sing like solo or up to a group of 5. And I couldn't find anybody to sing with me, so I just sang on my own. Just did my own thing. And I remember singing some god awful emo Christina Aguilera thing. Oh, like oh god, just thinking about that. Um anyway, the teacher had ended up recording it because he wanted me to hear it. Because he could hear something in me that I was literally just doing the test for the term. Um, and yeah, like to have somebody hear that and believe in me musically. And he also said, like, I can hear how you feel this music. And I was like, whoa, that changed my life. And I think I was like probably 13 when that happened. So yeah, I was in school, we had choir, and in choir you're singing choral music, a lot of classical music, and the people that ended up being really kind of influential in those times to help me build my instrument as a singer happened to kind of be down a classical path. So I inevitably ended up going to the university that my high school professor went to, teacher, university professor. So I went to his alma mater and I really loved it. It was, again, a classical music program. And I mean, I've always kind of been like an emo kid. My teenage years, I loved like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, anything that had like rock. And I started to get into harder sounds because coming from oldies and country western and pop music to hear this like double bass drums, I'm like, whoa, my mind is blown. But I knew that wanting to be a singer, I knew that because if I wasn't playing an instrument, I was already kind of like not less than, but I think singers can get away with being really kind of um ignorant musically. Because especially if you have good ears, like you don't need to know anything. Like if as long as you can hear something and you can keep a beat relatively well, it's workable. But I wanted to be sure that I was not just passing through with a pretty sound. And so yeah, and actually in that experience, I found that I discovered a lot more of my voice. When I was in high school, I used to sing really low. We didn't have any boys in school that wanted to join the choir, really. So I was singing tenor, like really low stuff. I didn't think I had any sort of head voice at all. And at university, I had a professor that just showed me how to like properly use this instrument. And it changed my voice completely. It opened up this entire top end and plus when it comes to the sound. And I mean, I know that you personally were at this gig with the Crystal Wolf Project last night, but the way that I sing now is so greatly impacted by the fact that I got a proper education and I learned how to use this. I mean, we have to learn so much about the whole instrument entirely, and I also spent years teaching. I'm still a music teacher. I help people find their voice because I've spent so much time thinking about what does it take to make that sound. It started with kind of mimicking Christina Aguilera, back in the day. but now to kind of find what I want to do with music. So yeah, that's a really long answer to kind of what got me into music, but it's definitely all been really important steps. I wouldn't be the singer that I am without the rock influence, without the classical influence, without the kind of folk stuff that I've listened to. I mean, I still put Patsy Cline in my sets when I go out and play solo, but if I can get a full band and like just wail away, I think it's about, for me now, just what do I feel and how can I share that?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, some people say you don't need to get a musical education, etc. But I just think that if you really understand the instrument and the music better, you can be more expressive. You can get to express yourself easier. And that's what I've always found. I'm a drummer, like deep down. I tried playing guitar, but I find it a frustrating instrument because ultimately I can't express the things that I can hear in my head. Whereas when
Yeah.
you get really good technically and proficiently at your instrument, then there's no limit to your creativity.
Yeah, and I mean, as well with the education that I got, because I said singers especially, we can get away with being so ignorant, but like now I have the capacity, like I'm much more proficient when I play the piano and keys, just as a really easy example. And so when I do all these covers, I can look up tab sheets really easily. I can change keys around and I can have conversations with other musicians and say, like, oh, what are you playing? Oh, you're in C sharp minor. Okay, then we're going to go to E major or whatever. I just know, and it takes me less time to sit there and like, am I playing the right thing? Now, I fully agree that a music education is not the most necessary thing because my education almost broke me. I mean, I still have conversations, and I had with every student of mine, but some of my old professors and the peers that I went to about the traumas that we inflicted upon each other in the classical music world. That movie, drumming, Whiplash. Whiplash. Now, obviously, that's kind of like jazz and drumming. Same principle, though. You have this hard ass teacher who was taught in a hard ass manner, and they inflict that. And that's not the way that music, I mean, it produces good results, but it also produces trauma. And, I think back to, composers like Mozart. He got a lot of flack when he was writing stuff. He studied with all of the greats, and the greats were still, comparing themselves to him, but he was still able to do his own thing. He suffered a lot for that. And I think, you know, we don't have to do that anymore. And so that's kind of the approach that I do. I find that when I sing out in the world, um, in pubs at open mic nights, because of what I can do, I get some singers that feel a bit, or musicians that kind of feel that it's that I'm different than them, that it's kind of like an unattainable thing. And I say to them, no, this is just practice. And I've spent years like just exploring what my instrument does, the same way that a guitarist will sit with a guitar and just play notes, play different scales, see what they feel like. I sing a musical line and I sing it 1,000 different ways. I'll sing a pop song in the style of jazz, in the style of country. I try to mimic sounds in every single way because it's through that I find my most authentic sound. And when people get to hear me sing in something that's a little bit more prepared, it's because I've gone through and I've really found the shapes that I like to use that sound and feel good to me. And when they feel good to me, I present them better, like I'm having fun. That's another big thing. Like, I know so many classical singers that still perform. It's so boring. It is so boring. And you want to be moved. You want to be moved. And I would much rather hear someone that is not necessarily technically perfect, but actually makes me feel something. And when you have that intention behind your music, it doesn't matter where you've come from. It only matters what you bring to the table. I mean, that's what I fully, in all aspects of life, that is like the motto of Emma: live by your true intentions. um Whether it be music, relationships, work, they all are the same thing. And yeah, intention.
Drawing that into sort of like a concise statement, I guess, what advice would you give to like a musician that's just starting out, they've just picked up their instrument and they're trying to make a career in music?
So making a career in music is hard. You have to I just said it. You have to find out what your intention is. What do you want from music? Because I actually had a lot of students that would come to me and I would ask them this: what are you planning to get out of this? And if you want to play on the main stage at Glastonbury, your pathways and the steps getting there are going to be different than somebody who has the goal to get up at an open mic night and sing one song. And I know plenty of people that that's their goal. I just want to have that courage to get up and just do it one time, just the one, so I can say I can. And it changes how you practice something. I would also say, I mean, getting on at Glastonbury, those kind of things, it has to be a little bit more commercial. So I'm going to leave that side out. But if you are stepping in and you are picking up an instrument, any of the instruments, for the first time, because there's something that has drawn you to it. Like maybe it was a song that you heard that was like, oh my God, that's a saxophone solo. I'm going to learn how to play the sax. Now, I have no intention because my neighbors would kill me. But find that drive, find that passion, whatever sparked that interest in you, and start there. If you've picked up a ukulele because you want to play some songs and you heard like Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen, try that. And as well, maybe try singing along to it, like integrating another sort of instrument with it. I think that's why I like the voice, because if you're playing any other instrument, you can always sing along to it, because it kind of takes the pressure off and you're developing these skills. Um, Explore in that intention as well, because if you want to sing this song, be the best that you can at that. Try to find what makes you the most unique, because listen, anybody can learn to sing an Adele song. I know this because I've taught so many people to sing Adele songs, but I do not teach them how to sing Adele. I teach them how to sing like themselves to a song that Adele has sung. Because actually, like, Adele got massive. I mean, we first heard her with Make You Feel My Love. That's Bob Dylan's song. We're not thinking about Bob Dylan when she sings it because we are feeling love like Adele feels love. And that's because she spent the time to listen to that song and really make it her own and add the colors that she needed. So it gets cold when she feels words that might bring a little bit more heartache. That might not have been how she approached the song at all, but that's how I feel it. So if I'm going to encourage and guide somebody through learning something like that, I'm going to tell them, how do you feel love? And sing it that way. Because actually, when I sing Make You Feel My Love, I think about my mom and the kind of love that she's given me. And, then people listen to it and they're not comparing me to Adele because they're encapsulated in what I've been able to create there in that space. Again, find a way to transmit the sound in a way that you feel represents you the best. I think that's the best way to surmise that. Whether it be singing or any instrument, how do you want to share that with the world around you, and in what capacity, and give it a go.
I think what's interesting as well about what you said there is like everyone can take their own meaning from a song. It might mean something to you when you write it. Someone else might take an entirely different meaning. And therefore, like someone performing the same song, they're going to play it differently. They're going to do it differently because they've got that different emotional connection to the music and the song that they're performing.
Absolutely. I mean, funnily enough, I'm wearing their shirt, Nothing But Thieves. Oh my God. One of my favorite bands, so inspired by them. I don't usually listen to like really contemporary stuff. Heard them on the radio about 8 years ago and was like, this is sick. I need to know more. And I've seen them live, probably the most out of any band I've ever seen live. Now, I've brought them up because Crazy, Crazy by Gnarls Barkley. It's a really cool song anyway, and you can do whatever you want with it. There's been lots of different covers. Nothing But Thieves do the best. Now, I say this, obviously, I'm quite a bit biased, but it is the epitome of crazy. And especially with, you hear songs from them like Amsterdam, it kind of has that, it's got this repetitive kind of angsty nature about it anyway. They really grabbed that vibe, and it is like insanity kind of crazy. I love it. It is sick. It is dark. Gnarls Barkley's in D minor. They've dropped it down to C minor. And so when you play it live, I used to get my covers band to do it because I was like, we have to do this. Um, I was able to play like really heavy synths, but the bass, dropping him down to C, he was just like, and I mean, yeah, you take a song and you make it your own. A lot of the songs you hear on the radio today, they're written by many different people. A lot of not all of the artists even have any sort of writing capacity in them. In fact, I've done a few writing workshops with a Grammy-winning songwriter. I don't want to name drop him here because he does programs. But he writes for really big names. He's written for Whitney Houston and Taylor Swift and stuff. And we've talked about the song process. Some of us went into these workshops because they just want to be songwriters and they want to write something that's catchy enough that somebody like me, a vocalist, could sing. And even Anne Marie, she's a great artist. She was a songwriter first. And actually, I heard an interview that she did on BBC that the kind of the first song that she released was the first song that she had written. She'd been writing with all these big names and releasing stuff with these big names. And she was like, this one's mine. Like, I think I should do this one, you know? And so, um, yeah, it's kind of a fun way to look at things. And I think it makes it easier on all of us as musicians to know that, like, I don't have to be great at everything. I can, because yes, I'm in this project, the Crystal Wolf project. It's all original stuff, but I still really enjoy singing covers. I like being able to like park up at a pub with my instruments and play music for people. They really get a lot from hearing me sing some Celine Dion at the top of my lungs. Great. You like it? I like it. Let's keep doing it. And I think a lot of like cover artists get shit for that, which is, unnecessary. I think it goes back to what's your intention? What are you trying to share? What's the point of this? And if you feel something musically and you want to share it, other people are going to, it's like a little fire. They're going to come and see and gather around.
Love it. I love the way you put that as well with the fire analogy. So you talked about like the original stuff that you're doing now. Like, what does your songwriting process look like personally? Be good to hear a little bit about that.
So uh my brain kind of like freaks out at the thought of songwriting. I have found that I work better in a collaborative setting. Um, I have a couple of songs that are actually like good songs, and they were written in the capacity with other people. Now, actually, the people who they were written with, it wasn't really intended to be released with those people. Like one of them was at one of these songwriting workshops. We were in Italy. Like we're not going to be working in a band together. um, so because I think for me, there are times where I'll sit at my piano and I'll be playing something and I'll just feel it go somewhere else. And most of the time, I'm smart enough to turn on the phone and get a recording of it. Um, but I kind of lose those ideas sometimes. I'm not very good with pushing myself forward. So when I have that other kind of ear around, it helps. I find that when it comes to melodies, I'm fine. I hear melodies all day, everything. I make everything into a song. Probably annoying for my friends, but that's just kind of what I do. So vocally, that's actually really quite simple. And I can even hear the harmonies and things. And I feel pretty confident with writing lyrical stuff. But um yeah, it's a mix of things. I would definitely say collaboration. I have a very tough time writing things by myself to completion. Kind of, again, just need that outside ear. And actually through the workshops that I've attended, that was kind of one of the main points to be taken from that, is the collaborative mindset, because this particular songwriter that we were working with, he has a partner that he's worked with for 30 something years, and they have a great relationship and they know how to make things work. And so I think it's about kind of finding those people, and thankfully I'm kind of getting into that circle now. But it's kind of like you have to test the waters, because I think you can, especially if there's great musicians around. I could make music with everybody. If somebody plays something, I could easily put something down, but it's about finding something that makes me feel inspired to do so. I don't necessarily, I mean, I think I could write for script if I needed to. Like if somebody came and, you know, we need to write a jingle for the podcast or something, I could easily do that as like a project collaboratively. But yeah, kind of gone off topic there, but yeah.
No worries. So we talked a lot about like your history and like what led you up to the point you're at now. Be good to hear from yourself, what does your like future plan look like?
So I'm gonna close my window because I think you can probably hear the alarm. Huh. So yeah, as of last night, the Crystal Wolf Project had their first gig, and that actually was a lot, because it's so new. I wasn't really kind of expecting to plan ahead for that, but it is definitely something that is going to be developed. That's what's going to happen. I'm personally working on getting myself out there as a singer, because as I said, I do perform. I mean, it is mostly covers. And I feel a bit, I kind of downplayed that in my body language and in my tone. And I don't want to, because I want to encourage, and I see actually, especially here around Swindon, quite a lot of, covers acts. There's a lot that's going around here. And yeah, I hope to be out there as well. I am, I mentioned earlier that I am a music teacher. I do facilitate music sessions for people who want them. Um, it's kind of, it's not hard to explain at all. I mean, before I was a teacher and people would come to weekly lessons or fortnightly lessons in a more traditional sense. And I found that, especially with what I'm trying to do and the people that I'm encountering here in Swindon, that, it's more about offering ways for people to kind of expand the things that they do, maybe ways to look into alternative musical pathways for themselves. Now, I'm not necessarily speaking to somebody like yourself, but some of the people that came to talk to me last night, oh my gosh, your singing is so great. I wish I could sing like that. Hey, come and let's have a couple of sessions, that sort of thing. I feel so wholeheartedly about the power of music as a whole and what it can do for people. And so I'm in the process, the relocation to Swindon kind of paused this, but I'm in the process of making music retreats for people to go to, for people who don't necessarily have, music in their everyday life and just want to find their voice in a way. Um, different sorts of sessions. They don't necessarily all revolve around music either, because I find that the music people finding their voice musically usually is so tied into something deep within them that kind of quieted them or their spirit. And so to help people just find the courage to, yes, we're going to stand up through song right now in this particular thing, but it will help them that next week at work to stand up for themselves and maybe, submit a project, or to go and make a new friend, or to finally tell their partner that they want to leave or something. I don't know, that's quite extreme, but um yeah, it's just kind of that's kind of the main purpose of why I feel I'm here in this life in general, is to help people just make more connections to music. And I say that, yes, because people come to these gigs, but I've seen the world change through music. I've seen really quite closed, cold people absolutely change their mind about things. And I found through my own personal experiences in life, growing up in a very culturally closed, very religious community that I didn't fit in, music was the place that I could. And I already mentioned that, like, it's a way, if people are going to misinterpret my words all the time, but music makes us feel something and it changes something in us. And when you are asked and you're showing up to being that emotionally vulnerable, it changes how you behave. And so, like, I do think that a lot of the problems that we see in society and the issues that we have, a lot of our mental health problems can be solved by people just having this outlet in whatever capacity. And it is through the students I've had. I had quite a lot of like non-traditional, they're retired men. In fact, one of my students was like a strong Brexit man, and I had to say to him, like, political things aside, because we don't really talk about those in the studio, but like, just so you know, your teacher is an immigrant. I'll be very honest here. And just because I have this bright and fun accent that you've heard on the television, it doesn't make me any different. And again, music drops all of that, like, especially in sessions with me, when you're around me. I don't care where you're from, I don't care what your background is. I care what you bring to the table here and right now, and what you do with what we make here, how you take that forward. That's the only thing that matters. And when you provide that sort of safe place for people, under no other pretenses than just show up and do your best, it changes the whole experience, like people's mentality, um, even what you get out of that, like the people that are involved there. It's amazing. So that's what I'm doing, trying to kind of cultivate more of that through my live music and through the connections that I make with people professionally.
Sounds amazing. That's great. So Emma, we're nearly out of time today. This has been a really good conversation. Really enjoyed it. But is there anything else you'd like to leave the audience with as we close out?
Well, thanks for listening to me babble for so long. Yeah, I guess I've got the social media outlets. I've got an Instagram. I've got an artist Facebook page, Emma Doupé. And yeah, get in touch. Please come and just be a part of the music. That's the biggest thing. Uh, get out and do musical things, share experience. That I can't express that enough. And hopefully I'll see more of you out in the musical world as well.
Amazing. Thanks, Emma. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.